Welcome to Think Big with Dan and Qasim. Join hosts Dan Melnick and Qasim Masood as they explore big ideas, limitless possibilities, and engage with visionaries, entrepreneurs, and thought leaders who dare to dream big, get inspired, motivated, and find practical tips for personal growth. Think big, dream bigger, and ignite your potential.
All right, welcome to Think Big with Dan and Qasim. So if you want to go ahead and introduce yourself and tell us where you live and what you do for a living.
Alrighty, so my name is Johnny Najar, and I am the CEO and co-founder of Frutto Foods in Miami, Florida. What we do is basically we're produce brokers.
Awesome. So how did you get the idea to start this business?
Well, I come from a small town called Nogales, Arizona. It's a border town. And basically, if you come from Nogales, you either are a teacher, a policeman, or you work in the produce industry. So I always looked up to a lot of great people in Nogales, and I knew from the beginning that I wanted to work in the produce industry. So I started as a sales assistant. This was in February of 2014. So next month, it's my 10th anniversary in this industry.
Awesome.
And I worked my way up as a sales executive. And from there, it's been a long and fun ride.
Well, I guess I'm curious, right? Because it's one thing to be a sales executive and you have people in the industry that you know, but it's a totally different ball game to actually start your own business. So what made you actually want to, I guess, dive into that, starting a business and doing kind of what you're doing today?
Okay, well, ever since I was a small boy, I've always dreamed of being a business owner, which I didn't know how I would start or anything. But I'll give you a little bit of a little backstory. Okay, so I get into the produce industry. After my fifth year in the industry, it was too much for me that I tried to take a sabbatical year. I was having a lot of stress issues, a lot of personal issues. And you know what? I said, I'm going to take a year. And I say I tried. I packed all my things and moved to Bogota, Colombia. And I was there for 3 months. And about the second or the third month, the customers I used to handle, they would call me and they were like, "Hey, where did you end up?" I'm like, "I'm not in the industry anymore." And they were like, "You know what? Well, we miss you. We need your service." And that's where I noticed that I was valuable to the marketplace. So, all right, I called up a friend he's a great friend. And I told him he owns a business and he owns a broker company. And I told him, "Hey, well, my customers are calling back. I don't know if I should come back to the industry." And he was like, "Yeah, sure. I'll make you an email. You can start off as an independent contractor, but you'll be paid as commission only. There's no salary based." All right. It was like, well, I was actually just planning to take a sabbatical year. So the destiny brought me back to Nogales 7 months later. And I loved coming back and working with my people, with the companies and everything. But what brought me to be a business owner was that my business was getting too big and I wanted more and I wanted more. So I started to see how I can get better in the sales game. So eventually my business gets too big and I was like, okay, well, I need more people. I wouldn't like for me to be the only person winning at this game. So that's when my wife and I decided to go and open Frutto Foods.
Awesome. So I guess I'm curious, right? Can you describe what a typical day looks like for you in the business?
Well, at Frutto Foods, there's was one thing. I've worked with great companies, but I've also feel like I've got nothing but good things to say about the past companies I've worked for. But I've seen this culture where business owners may have forgotten about the people that work for the company. And what I say is that they don't really know what their people's ambitions are, their goals. So that's my main thing. I always try to push for a great culture in the company. And at Frutto Foods, we start our day. It's gonna sound crazy. Well, we kick it off with doing 10 push-ups, 10 squats. Everybody shares their daily wins and targets. That helps us to keep us motivated and to stay aligned with our goals. After that, we follow up with a little speech from anybody in the team, and that keeps us motivated as possible. After that, I go into my with my coordination team, and we go, okay, what happened yesterday? What can we do better today? And just to in order to accomplish our goals and our daily targets. I give those targets to my coordination team regarding prospecting, follow up, extra paperwork we need to do. And after that, I could say I jump into the financial part of the business, and I'm just making sure there's sufficient cash flow to pay our vendors and making sure all our customers are paying within the timeframes. And I'm doing all of that, but at the same time, I never take off my focus off sales.
For sure. So speaking of sales, like what would you say is an ideal customer and what has been like the best way that you've been able to acquire your customers and grow this business?
I would say word of mouth. There's a lot of recommendations. Like we've been doing a great job with one of the customers, and they'll even share their own customers. They're like, you know what, uh, just talk to Frutto Foods. Like they've done a great business with me. So a lot of referrals, and that would be the core. But we're getting also into a lot of cold calling.
Right. So when you say cold calling, it's like, is that you or people on your team? Like, how does that work out for you?
This part of the company, it's barely starting, but to be sure that everything is done correctly, I do it myself first because I can't ask anybody to do something that I'm not willing to do. So I'll go after it first. I'll see what we should do, what we shouldn't do, and then after that we do an SOP. Then we pass it on. We
For
delegate
sure.
it.
So besides cold calling, obviously, like you mentioned, word of mouth, but have you guys done like other strategies like emails or, running ads or like what else have you done to scale this business to kind of where you're at now?
Right now, it's all been organic, but I would say we are very heavy on LinkedIn. We post every day on LinkedIn. We do some massive emails. We may send 10 to 15 emails per day. Some of our customers get mad, but at the end of the day, they're like, I know that I can't unsubscribe from your mailing list because I know that sometimes I'm going to need it.
For sure, yeah. I mean, I think especially as you said, right? I mean, it's not like you're emailing random people. I mean, these are your customers and they love your products and your business. So for them to hear from you, I mean, it's important to kind of see what's new, inventory, things like that. So I guess for you, I'm curious, like, what is an ideal customer? Are they located somewhere, certain type of grocery store? Like, who is an ideal customer for you?
Yes, it's from retail to food service to wholesaler customers.
But I guess like out of those categories, what's the breakdown percentage wise currently, and like what are you kind of focused on as, more of a push for 2024?
2024 is we're still focusing mainly on food service and wholesale companies.
Okay. So for people who don't know, can you describe like what the difference is between food service and wholesale?
Okay, food service is all the companies that serve maybe small retail companies. I'm sorry, small retail chains or mom and pops. Also restaurants, schools, let's say also hospitals. And wholesaling is where there's a terminal market and a lot of people go and buy direct from them. Like you could say also all the mom and pops, instead of getting everything delivered, they go and pick the fruit and the vegetables there.
Makes sense. So for you, in terms of your customers, are they like located geographically, like near Miami or somewhere else in the country, or is it like all over the US? Like, what does that look like for you?
We service all the way from California to New York, and we also service Canada from Vancouver to Montreal.
Oh, awesome. So in terms of servicing people and in terms of, because I was just looking at like your reviews, like 5 stars, really good. So how have you been able to keep up these like high service levels, as you've scaled this business?
Like I tell everybody, is commitment and follow up. Just follow up every day because you're gonna get a lot of people tell you, "Don't call me again," and just you know what, the next day we're following up.
So what would you say is like the biggest challenge that you currently face in the business?
The biggest challenge is that's a great question. I think every day we learn something new. And if it's not trucking or the logistics part, but the biggest thing would be not providing enough value for the customers for them to be able to pay the price. Because it all comes down to the price. And I see that if there's a lot of people asking for discounts or, hey, I can't pay the price, well, maybe we're not providing enough value.
Right. So basically, what you're saying is that you charge what you charge in part because you do provide the value, because you're able to offer a higher quality of service. Because your competition might be able to give like a better price, but it's not going to be on time. Like it might be delayed, that there might be quality issues. But from your side, okay, I'm charging this much because you have a great team and you're very on top of things, essentially.
Right. And I see that even with our vendors. There's vendors that, well, we'll go to the cheap vendor, but I know the service and the quality is not going to be the best. So one thing I tell my team is, hey, just what you get what you pay for.
Exactly. So obviously now, right in 2024, many people are looking at higher level technology like AI. So is that something that you currently use in the business? And if not, like, do you see it potentially adding value for your business come this year?
Yes, I do. And we're starting to implement AI in small things, but I think eventually we're going to get very heavy on AI. But as of right now, I think the industry needs AI because we're very, what's the word?
Manual, I guess, very manual
Yes,
processes.
super manual.
Right. So it's essentially like you feel AI can help with the automation and just maximize efficiency all throughout the industry.
Yes, and there's a lot of great companies already focusing on that. It's one of our partners, and this is a shout out to Silo. They are really heavy on AI.
So I guess like when you're using AI with Silo, for example, like in what process specifically are they bringing like AI? Is it more just like, customer interaction, or is it more just documentation, shipping, like the full system? Like where specifically does AI come into play when it comes to the business?
It comes with the whole system, but it's they're starting a new phase where they're building a marketplace where people can go and just instead of picking up the phone, they can just let's say like an Amazon.
For sure. So I guess in terms of your business goals, right? Like in 2024, where you really like I want to take this company in terms of scaling, like a certain percent growth from last year to this year. Like what's really like in the pipeline for you in 2024?
2024, our goal is to grow Frutto Foods by 500% of what we did last year. And let's say in 10, 15 years, my business goal is to have Frutto Foods to be a worldwide recognized brand within the food industry, where customers can be sure they can go to any place in the world and they can buy Frutto Foods label. Just like Coca-Cola. I did a little research about Coca-Cola. Man, their product is not perfect, but they're everywhere. You can fly anywhere in the world, you can buy Coca-Cola.
For sure. So I mean, what do you think is like the biggest obstacle, like from where you're at now to get to that 500% growth in 2024?
Getting people to know us, advertising, obviously AI will help with that. But you're only as big as people know you. If nobody knows you, you can't scale, you can't grow. So that's the biggest thing.
So like, are you planning on running ads like on LinkedIn or something, or like what does that look like for you for this year?
Yes, keep doing more of what we do. Like I tell our team, like we should never do less. If something is working, we should just build on top of that and do more. And that would be more email campaigns, more cold calling, more emails, more social media interactions, like even TikTok. We're not in TikTok, but that's the next step. You gotta be everywhere.
For sure. So, what would you say is like the one biggest piece of advice that you wish you knew before you started this business?
Well, you know what? There's maybe a few things. Uh, how you buy is how you buy. Let me. say it again. How you buy is how your customers will buy from you. And this just plays on my mind every day. I used to be the person who would buy cheap because, well, I was looking always looking for a deal. And now it's like if I buy cheap, I know my customers will try to buy cheap from me. If I'm if I'm shopping around, my customers will shop around. And another thing is make decisions quick. And you can always stay certain, eh, but you got to make decisions quick because if I make decisions quick, I can pressure people to do the same thing for me.
For sure, yeah. You got to move quickly, and I think sometimes, especially in these bigger companies, a big bottleneck is you need this approval, that approval, and it takes many months or years to get things done. So if we're going to have this conversation again in 1 year from now, where do you see things going for your business?
Well, right now we have opened on 2023, we opened an office in Texas with our partners, Diego y Pema and Valeria. We just opened a new office in Bogota, Colombia. And right now our goal is to keep expanding. Right now we're 13 people on the team. Our goal is to be 50 by December of 2024 and just have my team winning. That's the most important thing for me is to have my team winning at all time. Like I tell them, my mission is for your success to look easy. You don't have to go through all the 10 years of knowledge. My work is just to deliver for you guys so guys can have success.
That's amazing, and we're rooting for you. So if somebody watching this wanted to reach out, do you mind sharing your website or social media, I guess, best ways to get in contact with you?
Sure, our website is www.fruttofoods.com, and you can also find us on LinkedIn, Frutto Foods. And let's say Instagram, it's Frutto Foods LLC.
Awesome. Well, Johnny, thank you so much for your time today.
All righty, Dan, thank you so much for having me.
Of course, thanks. All right, bye.
Bye.